Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast. The Bills are 2-0, but who cares? The Sabres are playing hockey, right?
Yeah.
They're playing something resembling hockey.
I'm kidding. Hey, Bills are 2-0. Both games are W's in MetLife Stadium. What's up, boys? What do you think about the game?
Oh, it was a fun one to watch. A little bit more aesthetically pleasing, I think, at the beginning, at least. It seemed like once they figured out that it was going to be Saquon Barkley and not Eli Manning, everything kind of came into focus. They were able to do it. And yeah, no, definitely a more complete game from the team. I know, I guess technically the defense gave up a couple more points in this one, but overall I thought it was a better performance.
The offense played almost 3 full quarters this game instead of just basically one.
Which was nice.
I love the concept of the Bills defense going off the field after that first drive and Sean McDermott going to them going, all right, guys, turns out we should focus on Saquon Barkley. Let's be sure to do that the next drive. Saquon Barkley is his name, the running back.
Number
not
26.
the guy who won a full quarter and half without throwing completion. Barkley, 2-6, 26.
So on that next drive, there was like a super slow-mo behind the Giants offense, and Eli Manning, professional quarterback and 2-time Super Bowl champion,
big if true,
threw one of the worst ducks I've ever seen. I thought the ball had been tipped. It was not tipped. It left his hand awkwardly. I think the intended target was Evan Ingram. It missed by several feet, and there was not even a chance that even if you got a hand on the ball, you could catch it. I don't know. I don't know. Daniel Jones, I don't know if he's good or not, but boy, you might as well find out if you're Giants at this point, because Eli Manning, it's done. It's toast.
You guys mentioned Barkley, and I find it unbelievable that this guy only got 18 carries. I know that the Bills did bottle him up for the most part after that first drive, but it still felt like you're just watching them not give him the ball. Like, what are your other options? Evan Ingram might be it, but he probably should have given, whether he was averaging 2 yards a carry or 10 yards a carry, he probably should have been given 25 carries.
He's averaging over 7 yards a carry on the season. I think you just got to ride that horse for what it's worth, because no one can actually, you can put 8 guys in the box on him in some plays and they won't actually stop him, but it is worth noting that the coaching staff in New York today would not commit to Eli Manning as a week 3 starter. I don't think that Jones maybe benefits quite yet, at least until maybe Golden Tate comes back or Shepard or somebody gets healthy on the outside. But it is going to happen sooner than later, it feels like, that they're going to figure out what they got in that critically panned first-round pick who had a good preseason, so now no one knows how to feel.
Right. And he, look, from a Bills standpoint, this is exactly what you should have done. They took advantage. They were gifted a chance to win the first game against the Jets. They somehow took advantage of the, literally 1% probability that they pull that thing out. And then they beat a bad team on the road. But you've won 2 straight games. You had the exact same routine. I don't know if anybody saw Peter King's article about how it was the same hotel. They landed 5 minutes after. There was a 5-minute difference between when the flights landed back in Buffalo on Sunday. Everything was the exact same. They kept the routine, and creatures of habit, we know, are athletes, and there, in a way, it turned out that there was almost a bit of an advantage, I think, in having you play 2 road games. Why not have them back to back in the exact same stadium against teams, one that I thought was your peer and one that I think you're significantly better than? And I think on Sunday we saw that with the Bills. They proved that they were better. Justin, what did you think not watching from Washington, D.C. this time around?
Glad watching at home. Good game. I think the game came down to, I don't think the Giants offense stunk. The Giants offense stink, or the Bills defense is really good.
I think it's
a little bit of both.
Both, yeah.
I would.
But I feel like in terms of the Bills offense, I'm sorry. I think in terms of the Bills offense, I think the game really came down to a couple big blown coverages by the Giants. Otherwise, I don't think the score is what it is. But it is what it is. It was better than last week, and it's what makes me happy.
The Bills converted so many third downs.
Josh Allen made 1 throw in that game that
Dawson Knox.
The Dawson
only
Knox,
3 players in the league attempt and can make.
Can you imagine? So I don't mean to yum on the yuck. That's a Pittsburgh term. That if he completes that next pass to John Brown, we all would be running around our living rooms taking clothes off, because if he follows
hopefully your own living room.
If he follows
we're going
up
to Steve's house to do that.
Sure. If he follows up that throw to Dawson Knox while rolling to his right, with a dot to John Brown for a touchdown, we start preparing for Super Bowl parades.
Yeah, pants up, dance off.
Yeah. But you know what? It's funny because if you were to look at Josh Allen's repertoire, you'd say the big arm and the deep ball, and that's what he missed. But you know what he's not missing? The 7-yard slants and that little hitch route to John Brown. That was a first down.
He's doing a lot better hitting the routes he could not hit last season.
Yes, and
the short intermediate routes.
and that's what you have to hit. That's what Brady hits. If Brady has 30 completions, 25 of them are probably the intermediate short routes that he hits.
And 8 yards of completion puts you ahead of the sticks.
Yes.
2nd and 2 is great.
Yep. But it was just fun to watch them chew up third downs. Like the first 5 third downs the Bills looked at, they converted 4 of them. So how many 3 and outs? Like none. So
Yeah.
we're laughing as the Jets.
Trevor Siemian just got hurt.
Is broken on the field.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think it's funny when we talk about Josh Allen, and Bill, I know you had a point you wanted to make about Josh Allen here in the
No, go
tonight,
on.
but
Go on.
When we thought what we thought we were getting out of college and what people were excited for Josh Allen to be was this downfield passer. And the good version of Josh Allen that we've got is something very, very different. He's been way more accurate in the first 2 games than he has been at any point in his professional football career or college career, for what it's worth there as well. He is way better of an athlete than I think anyone gave him credit for coming out of Wyoming, that to the point that they're designing runs for him to the outside, and he's making the right reads and cuts and making it look good in the process.
He's run, what, 2 quarterback sweeps this season?
Yeah, and he's converted both and be able to turn the corner and get to the outside. This is an entirely different quarterbacking situation than I thought the Bills were getting, and for better or worse, I think it's been almost all for the better this year, that Josh Allen may be completely misscouted coming out of college in terms of what his ceiling was and where it is.
He also had that really nice quarterback draw that got called back on that invisible hold by Mitch Morse. That didn't happen. Anyway.
Yeah, there were some issues with the offensive line. Cody Ford either is getting blown up or blowing up guys after the play when they touch Allen. He right now, kind of a ballyhooed rookie. He's been struggling.
Did not have a good game. Regardless of how you feel about him defending his quarterback, he was not good outside of it.
No, and
Both tackles.
I don't know I don't know if he's just mismatched right now and he just needs to be a guard, period. But he's struggling, and he's still a rookie, so there's still plenty of time. Not counting him out or anything, but there is some stuff with the offensive line, and I think you've played 2 teams that aren't great at rushing the passer, and I think that's benefited the Bills, because if you're playing a better pass rush, I think there could be some issues there.
The good thing is at least the internal, I don't know, Feliciano had a bad penalty against the Jets, but at least your internal 3 are solid. Feliciano, Morrison, who is it, Spain?
Yep.
Quentin Spain, yeah.
At least they're a lot more solid.
I would agree with that.
And I'm not so worried about the tackle situation yet, because Ford is a rookie, and there's 3 positions on this team. I think moving forward, I think there's going to be changes coming up in probably the next few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if Zay Jones drops down the depth chart because he's still not doing anything. I think Singletary is going to get the bulk of the carries over Gore. And I think that Dawkins is going to, I think they're going to look at either Nasecki or Bates as bringing them up to the starting left tackle position over Dawkins.
Do you think that moves Dawkins to a right tackle then and maybe Ford back to guard, or what do you think the situation is there then with the O-line?
The good thing is it just feels like they have so much more flexibility in years past that if they have to move forward to guard, then I wouldn't be surprised if McDermott's brought up as the third tackle, or just so many things that they can do there right now that I don't think it's the worst position to be in.
I think Nseke can play left tackle too, because he did for the Redskins last year. Because of injury, he became the starting left tackle and did a fine job. And then that leaves Ford or Dawkins at right tackle.
I think both Dawkins and Nasecki can play both tackles.
Yeah, and I said in our Slack chat that, quoting myself, I feel like an asshole. You know what I said? Because I'm so good at this thing.
What was it, Steve?
Yeah.
What'd you say in our private chat? Let the people know.
I love Bill. No, Simeon's walking off. That's good. Looked like he busted his ankle. But anyways.
He might have still done
that.
Oh,
yeah. But I said that Dawkins was the worst offensive lineman, I thought. Has been through 2 games the worst offensive lineman. And that's good news and it's bad news. And it's good news is he's not been god awful. He's not getting blown up every play. It's not like Allen's getting strip sacked from behind. It's bad news because it's your left tackle, which is
kind of
Josh
an
Allen's
important
blind
position
side.
when you have a right-handed quarterback.
Exactly. If your right guard is the worst lineman on your team, you're okay because just run it to the left and let it.
And your right tackle can be covered up by help with the tight end and the guard.
Yep.
But that left tackle is usually on an island by themselves.
Yep.
But the reason I'm not so worried about Dawkins being the worst offensive lineman this team seems to have right now is because of the fact that they have that depth to make a move if necessary.
There's certainly bodies that you trust this time around instead of having to throw in like Vlad Dukas or something like that, right?
I want to get back quickly
Now league journeyman Jordan Mills, who's played for 7 teams in the last 7 days.
Getting back to the rest of your point there, Mike, I am still surprised that maybe his hamstring injury handicaps him a little bit this week. I don't know how you can look at what Devin Singletary has done through the first 2 weeks and not immediately try to get him more than 6 touches a game. It blew my mind that they weren't trying to get in the football more yesterday.
But
because
Gore
when he touched
played
it, he
well,
was great.
though. Gore had a good game yesterday. He had a better game than he did in game 1, and I do think he got 19 carries. I think there is something to be said, and he actually did catch a couple balls too, which was interesting. So 20 plus touches for Frank Gore, and good enough. I mean, they didn't have to be spectacular yesterday to win that game. They were good enough.
But do you want to wait until you have to be spectacular to get the guy who has a little bit more of a flash learning how to play spectacular?
I think if you're talking about the tendencies of what this coaching staff is, then yes, I do think that they're going to wait.
I completely agree they're going to run the guy up the middle.
Whether or not it's the thing you think they should do, I think it will be the thing that they.
I also think that they're at a place where they have this privilege that they haven't needed Singletary,
right,
and his chunk yardage. It's like, let's leave the Lambeau for the special occasion.
They needed it against the Jets.
Sure.
They didn't need it last week against the Giants. And if he isn't healthy, if he isn't fully ready to go or whatever, then yes, there is a case that can be made where you just kind of leave him in the garage and don't push him.
Well, right. And I heard today, and I have no idea. None of us would ever know if this is the thing where like you're trying not to give up tape on this kid, and that could be totally like coach speak cliche, but.
Yeah, I mean,
let him surprise people because you haven't needed him. They kind of knew that these 2 games would be, well, the Jets game they did end up needing him, as you said, but like the Giants game, like let's keep this kid a secret.
Yeah,
and let's have him be the special sauce when we need it. Because Gore played very well. I think like 87 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Like fine, you threw the ball well. You scored 4 touchdowns, and Frank Gore certainly was serviceable. And you didn't have to tip your hand and show them what your 3rd round rookie running back can do.
Yeah,
I'm just worried if your plan is save Singletary for a rainy day when you need a little extra boost. Depending on how long you wait, how many more 20 touch games do you think Frank Gore has this season?
Well, I don't think he has too many, but I would, and this sounds borderline cruel, but I would rather run Gore into the ground in the sense that if you don't think you need Devin Singletary to beat the Giants, don't use them. Use Gore, use Yeldon, utilize those guys because they have a little less tread left on the tires. Frank Gore has been running on ball tires for 4 years. It's really actually impressive considering he was hurt all the time in college and at the beginning of his career, and now he's been doing this. And he's the only guy that's
almost.
He's almost my
third
age.
leading rusher in history.
I mean, it is a tribute to showing up every year, and he certainly. I'm not disparaging him. He had some great years in San Francisco. Like he was an All-Pro there. But if this is the game plan for him, and you are going to utilize guys like Gore and Yeldon more in these blowout situations, and potentially you could see 2 more coming up in the next 4 weeks or so, as we'll project those games out in a little while. But yeah, I mean, the strategy is fine. I would rather save Singletary. The other point that you were making there, Mike, is Zay Jones dropping down the depth chart. I don't know where we stand with Zay Jones at this point. We're 2 and change in. He's finally gone over 1,000 yards for his career. Big moment for him.
He's exactly at 1,000 yards for his career.
There's a lot of but there's just not a whole lot to get excited about at this point with Zay Jones.
Is the issue him, or is that they've got better receivers around him, and like Beasley's getting like 7 yards of separation a route or something insane like that through 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think Beasley and Brown
he had that one catch where there was nobody around him.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Jones. I only remember one Jones play from Sunday, which is him going up and getting that ball that was a little bit high over the middle and coming down with that one, which I thought was a decent play. But I think the case for him might just be that he was being completely overshadowed by two better receivers. Then when it comes to getting the ball into someone's hands for like a more gadgety play, it's going to be McKenzie. So he might as well be the fourth or fifth receiver.
I think
because he's second or third in every significant area of the field.
I think that's exactly where he is right now. Is even though he should be nominally he's the first or second receiver on this team, in reality he's third or fourth, depending on.
That depends on what you think
use.
about Robert Foster.
And I don't think that it's as much everybody's out. I think everybody's been outshining him through the preseason and the first 2 games of the season to the point where it's not that he's overlooked as much as they're not even looking towards him.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. He's not what we thought we were getting.
He's not the NCAA catch leader with 1 drop in his entire college
It's kind
career.
of shocking that was the case at a school that's not exactly known for like wide open passing in East Carolina. Like
Makes me wonder if it's the slightly different shape of the college ball compared to the pro.
Something
slightly different shape.
stupid.
Slightly different shape of the pro defensive backs.
That's
might
what I
have more
was
to do
just
with
going to
it.
say.
Yeah.
Slightly different shape of the DB lined up across from him.
slightly different shape of the work ethic potentially too. You don't know. You can get by in the American on talent, and also if you're coordinator. I think Lincoln Riley was his offensive coordinator for a couple
He might be
years
all right
there.
on offense.
I think perhaps we were getting schemed open a little bit more. So it is something that we've seen. I think you're right. At this point, yeah, there's a hard case. And is he the type of guy that you would even want as a 5th wide receiver? Because I think when everybody's healthy and ready to go, yeah, he's rapidly approaching to be less and less an option at this point. So with that all said, defense came to play after the first drive. I mean, yeah, Barkley had more than half of his yards on that first drive. After that, once you got the Giants having to try and pass, easy pickings.
They were exposed not having a passing game.
It felt like they game planned that first drive really well, and they figured out ways to get the Bills defenders moving in a way that they could block successfully for Barkley. But the second the Bills got to go back to the sideline and figure out what they wanted to do, it was just all over for the running game, and then they just started trying to pass the ball, and that was when the game really tilted hard towards the Bills, and really for the next 2 quarters, it was all long Bills touchdown drives. Not just touchdown drives. These were touchdown drives of many plays and all 75-plus. I mean, the third one was, 98 yards after that
Long, sustained drives. Yep.
I mean, they were just moving downfield. They were converting third downs, like Steve mentioned earlier. Lots of third downs. They were
3rd and 10.
I'm sorry. Well, there's
3rd and 14.
high steps on the screen. It's really distracting. And you got probably think Allen's 2 best throws maybe ever in his career as a Bill both happened Sunday. The one to Knox, and there was another one that he was rolling out like that. I mean, another nice throw downfield. He looked great. And if this is the version of the offense you're getting and the version of the defense you're getting, you got a 2-0 team with a lot of teams around them that had some very significant injuries and a lot of questions.
And
this is a team that finds themselves very thoroughly in the midst of. And I don't want to jinx this here, but there's reasons to believe this is a team that's going to be contending for a wild card spot.
With 8 home games left.
With all 8 home games left.
Let's finish up on this Giants game, but I do want to talk about, because we were talking about in the Slack as well about, I made a great point, and we were talking about.
That's very humble, Bill.
Thank you. Well, just
taken after me.
want a little credit.
The most humble guy.
But talking about the AFC tiers, and we can talk about it and discuss it, but I think the Bills, they're in pretty good position right now. Given the way the rest of the schedule breaks for them at this point and what they have left. But, yeah, the defense, I don't know if anybody was superlative. It was just a good team effort. This defense is not going to change, it seems like, very much under the coaching staff. I mean, they, every year, almost game to game, with a couple notable exceptions, but the defense comes to play. And it doesn't really matter the opponent. They will bend occasionally, but for shutouts don't really feel like they're ever gonna happen. But it seems like it's a real struggle for a lot of teams to get above 20 to 24 points, and I think we saw that again. They kind of make you play left-handed. They take away your best option and then challenge you to do it in a different way. They do seem to scheme team to team, and that was something that we heard about as well I think it was Brian Dable was getting credit for kind of going scheming, team to team on the offensive side. Now that he has more talent in the wide receivers and the skill positions. I think that this team they're not just running a system, right? They seem to be willing to attack the best player on the team, whoever that may be. And they did a pretty good job with Le'Veon Bell. They did a superlative job, I thought, with Barkley. I mean, Barkley got some yards, but
he's one of those guys who's always going to get his yards.
The Bills had more rushing yards. The Bills ended up with more rushing yards than the Giants.
And like I said, really after that first drive,
almost all of that was the first drive.
A whole lot of nothing for Barkley.
I mean, you mentioned Dable game planning. A lot of credit to Leslie Frazier and that defensive staff because they looked like they figured things out in a hurry after that first drive. They got right to the sideline, and they, for the most part, for the rest of that game, they contained the best player on the other team.
It is funny that the Bills over the past half decade or so, like you think about the failed head coaches that they've had defense. I think of Jim Schwartz, who eventually won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia, but they looked really good under Doug Marrone when he was the defensive coordinator here. Things tailed off under Rex Ryan, but since this Leslie Frazier, and remember, we thought Leslie Frazier was going to lose the coordinatorship, and there seemed to be some real unrest a couple times. Now he's as solid a defensive coordinator as there is in the league right now, and the Bills seem pretty set at it.
I mean, going from that game where he got the play calling taken away from him for a half to what he's done yesterday is a huge improvement, a huge vote of confidence.
That was last year against the Chargers, right?
Yeah, very early last season. We thought he might be out the door. We came in to record on that Monday, but he got the play calling back, and it's been a huge turnaround since then.
This defensive line also might be one of the best attacking lines
in
the NFL right now.
How good is a healthy Trent Murphy? That's what I wanted to ask.
Almost every place he's Shaq Lawson chasing the quarterback down in the backfield, frustrated he didn't get the sack, but it's good to see like every player is back there and getting opportunities.
And Lawson, who felt like a lost cause, he doesn't get the 5th-year option extended to him as a first-round pick.
It's going to be what, $9 million? Is that right?
Already something like that. He already feels like he's having his best season. We're calling his name and he's staying on the field.
The funny thing is, I'm looking at the stats right now. Lawson only had one assisted tackle.
It's not always as much about as a defensive end. You're just forcing the play to someone else.
Right. It's not that he's getting the stats. It's he's disruptive.
Yeah. How many passes did he bat though? Because
0.
There's 7 plays. He's relentlessly chasing the quarterback to the sideline, making forcing a bad throw.
He was chasing Manning out of the pocket. He was basically sealing an end. He was just doing the things that don't show up on the stat sheet, but are very important for a defense to work.
Yeah, agreed. And he's looking really good.
And they're doing it with 4.
Yeah,
they're doing it with 4, and that I remember whether it was with Jim Schwartz, I don't remember, but it felt like maybe it was a time when you had Kyle Williams in the middle, and my names are already slipping. When you had Mario Williams, Kyle Williams, who else would have been on that line? Mm-hmm. They never had to blitz. They just rushed 4, and they held every gap, and they got to the quarterback, and that just made your defense that much better. It feels the same way again that they are bringing exotic blitzes. They do bring corner blitzes and safety blitzes, spots. But even without them, on 3rd and 12, they don't need to bring the house. They don't need to bring pressure because it's going to get there with the 4.
I want to point out, I forget which player this pass went to on the Giants, but Edmonds did him a favor by not blowing him up. That pick Edmonds almost had, if Edmonds would have tackled that guy, they'd still be scraping him off the field. He would have blown him into week 8.
It's a good attacking defense. They are sharks smelling blood in the water when they get themselves going, and you saw it by how Poyer and Hyde were playing on the back end too. They were delivering some big shots.
Talk about blowing someone up. Micah Hyde separated that ball from Fowler.
This defense right now, they must have did a lot of tackling drills in camp because their open field tackling is insane right now. They're not missing any tackles.
Saran Neal, if he doesn't make that tackle yesterday, it goes to the house. I believe it was on Barkley in the flat. Saran Neal was being blocked by a tight end, and he just spun through the block, and he flexed after he made the tackle. Do you remember? And he had every right to do that because if he doesn't shed that block, it's probably pay dirt. And he was absolutely in the numbers, squarely blocked to the chest, and he just swam through it and made a one-on-one tackle and stopped him on the spot. And I agree, Justin. They're tackling. You mentioned, I think, in the Slack chat how good their tackling is. They don't miss tackles even one-on-one, and been huge.
And now I'm just thinking, how many times has Tre'Davious White had a ball thrown at him?
It didn't feel like he was talked about very much all day yesterday, and Robbie Anderson was a basic non-factor in week 1 minus a couple of overthrows, so
I mean, I understand that
Maybe
he's not
5 or
playing
6 balls.
And if the Giants are down their top 2 wide receivers, right? Tate's suspended, Shepard, who played all of week 1 and then goes into the concussion protocol, and that could be a whole thing for the Giants to deal with. So not exactly elite talent. I mean, Cody Core doing work here for the Giants.
TJ Jones was their star offensive player for the second half of that game.
Right. So we're not talking about elite talent. We're probably talking sub replacement level talent. But that said, you still got to do it and show why you're the best. And right now, Tre'Davious White and the entire defensive backfield, I mean, they're just shutting dudes down. There's absolutely nothing there for anybody right now. It's really impressive.
It's going to be a much bigger test, I feel like, this Sunday. Now, I know Cincinnati just got railroaded by the Niners at home.
Yeah, weird game because they played pretty well against Seattle in Seattle, and then they come back home and face a team that I don't think is...
I believe Dalton led the NFL in passing yards in week 1.
Yeah, and so who knows what we're going to see, but I tend to think that the Bengals are more what they were in week 2 than they were in week 1. But yeah... John Ross and Tyler Boyd are good. Very good. Those are the 2 best wide receivers probably that they've seen. I would put those guys above
Tyler
Anderson.
Eifert and Bernard
Maybe.
and Mixon. So it's
Mixon may be hurt. Yeah.
Mixon, we'll see if he actually can play or not. But there's a lot of...
I think it's a manageable test for the Bills defense. Feels like it's kicked up a notch, which is good going into a Patriots game in 2 weeks. They don't want to look forward to.
Cincinnati's averaging like 55 yards a game on the ground.
Yeah, there's not much there.
Especially if Mixon is not healthy, if this offense is one-dimensional for the Bengals, I like the Bills' chances that much more. Whether it's, if they're throwing it 49 times because they can't get the ball going on the ground, I think that plays right into the Bills' hands because if you show your hand, this defense is going to make you pay.
Yeah. Everybody was talking in the post game about Allen's comments about acknowledging that Buffalo is the only team that plays in the state of New York. It's a sense of pride for Bills Mafia and Bills fans everywhere. He was the wink and it's good.
He's got more wins in that stadium over the last 16 games than both Sam Darnold and Eli Manning.
I mean,
so
it is impressive.
The king of New York and New Jersey while he's at it.
It's kind of a unique opportunity. They took advantage of it. They got it. Sit at 2-0. They come home now. Home opener. Very few teams get to start 2-0 on the road. It's
first time the Bills have ever done that.
I think there were 3 other times. I'm sorry. That teams opened up in New York.
4 times in history where they've won back-to-back weeks. I don't think it necessarily was to start the season.
Each team has gone to the playoffs.
Yeah.
These stats are important.
They are. These are hashtag stats.
Advanced
trends. Buy everything into it. But, when you see you have to start twice on the road, it kind of, it's not the best feeling when you see the schedule come out to think, like, it doesn't matter the opponents. Winning back-to-back road games in back-to-back weeks is a difficult thing to do in the NFL. There are very good teams. Like, the Chargers are probably better than the Lions, right? The Lions won at home yesterday. There are examples all over where you can say that. Yeah, exactly. So, you got after 2, and you can't let up, but you got the Bengals at home. Bengals,
and you can't overlook this game.
Winnable game.
Can't overlook it. I don't think the Bengals do not have a very good defense. Their offense, as we said, can be effective in the passing game. We will see this defensive backfield tested for the first time this season. I do believe that, they are... Boyd and Ross are going to get theirs on occasion.
How long is Green out for? Sorry, how long is Green out for? I don't know.
I think he's out at least half a year.
Okay.
I think he was on IR designated to return if memory serves.
Yeah, he will not be considered.
What a 3-person combo that they could have potentially there, but they don't right now. And so you can still go one-on-one with these guys. We know Ross's speed is there, but we certainly trust the safeties to help over the top, right? That's not really a major concern. Mm-hmm. So I think the matchups look pretty good, and if we can see this continued growth and steadiness on the offensive side, there's no reason to think that the Bills can't score, somewhere between 24 and 34 points again. That seems like a very realistic target for them. And if the defense can keep doing what they're doing and hold it down to, keeping the opponent under 20 again, maybe a little bit of a stretch. I don't know, but I think you can keep them 20-24. There's a lot of positive trends here. I think.
You know, one other thing it seems like the Bills defense is doing is they're not giving up the cheap first downs this year. The first downs via penalty.
Yeah,
they're a lot
right.
more disciplined.
The penalties. Week 1 was a little bit rough, especially it felt like in the first half. But it yesterday they played a really good game. I mean that, the score doesn't feel like it was this massive blowout. The Bills dominated that game basically from the opening kickoff. Once the first drive of the Giants was done, there was no point where I felt the Bills were in trouble there.
Beginning of the second half, the offense went into a lull, but the defense still showed up.
As long as you got one going, it's so hard to get both units going at the same time. Only the elite teams can do it. But with this team, it does feel like the defense can lead, and the offense, as long as the offense can get theirs and pick off pick off their spots where they can get going, then it feels pretty good. So Bengals coming to town, 2-0, 3-0. Does it feel like it's a reasonable expectation for this team? I would say absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and the best part about this defense, maybe and how well they've played, is this is not. There was that defense the year they made the playoffs where it felt like they were getting every bounce, fumbles that should have been fumbles, getting returned for touchdowns, everything. 1 turnover forced in 2 games. Mm-hmm. They are doing this by just straight up playing better than the other team. And you figured that at some point this season, I mean, turnovers happen on a fairly consistent basis and usually even out a little bit. That there's going to be some games where they're going to force a bunch of turnovers still left in this year.
Well, they had 2 interceptions yesterday.
Was it 2 interceptions?
Yeah,
the one
Trent Murphy and Jordan Poyer.
I forgot about the overthrow at the end of that game that Poyer picked off. But they're doing a really great
Poyer
job
made a
of
beautiful
playing
catch. He was
good,
wide
clean
open.
defense and not relying on the other team's mistakes. They have just been straight up. Our 11 guys are better than your 11 guys. This team is built to win 20 to 14 football games.
The defense has given up 3 scores. The Barkley touchdown, the other who was the second touchdown for the Giants, and then 1 against the Jets. Like the
Jets touchdown was a defensive touchdown.
So
the one. It's the one.
Bell got one.
Bell got a 2-point conversion, but other than that, the defense, they're not giving up anything.
No.
It's just not. They're like,
if you give up 1 touchdown and a half, you're going to win
it's deceptive that it's kind of deceptive that Manning got 250 yards because I think almost 60 of them came on that last drive. So basically, other than the garbage time at the end, they basically gave up 200 yards passing.
Mm-hmm. Then the other side of it, Josh Allen goes into the half with 206, 208 or something,
and ended with 253.
He didn't need it though. That's just it. He played a really good game, and when you look at the stat line at the end, you're like, man, where's that 300 yards? Because I harp on that. I want that 300-yard passer. But yesterday's a day that you didn't need it. You're not left wanting more out of your quarterback because he played well enough to give you everything you needed to win and then some. He didn't leave us wanting more, I don't think, other than maybe that throw to Brown that you would have liked to see. That would have been a walk-in touchdown. But
yeah,
I feel like you're nitpicking at that point.
A couple overthrows, but for the most part, I thought you played pretty well.
No interceptions.
No checkdowns on Twitter had him when talking about the accuracy of his throws, not including throwaways, 19 of 25. I'd say that's a pretty good rate for him. If this is the Josh Allen you're going to get and you're going to be able to only have him have 6 or 7 inaccurate throws a game, then that's a big step up from where he was last year. And you can absolutely say that he is turning a corner in his second year, which you would expect. I mean, this is what a second-year quarterback, especially one picked so high, that's what you would want them to do. And I think that that's where we are with them. So,
did I hear a stat that the rookie quarterbacks from 2 years ago that were the starters, and last year was their second year, like Trubisky, right? Trubisky started 2 years ago.
Yep.
Each one of those rookie quarterbacks in their second year won 4 more games than the year before. 4 or more, 4 plus.
Bears, Chiefs, and Texans. I mean, that's
right.
Yeah.
So does that sound right? That Mahomes?
Yeah. No,
if that's the case, then you have the Bills. I mean, obviously, it doesn't operate in a vacuum, but that's 10 wins for the Bills. And they're trending that way.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's what you're saying, right? And yeah. So I think, the Chiefs I think went 14-2, and I think they still won the division under Alex Smith the previous year. Watson got hurt, and I think the Texans won they were 5-11, 4-12. And then, the Bears also more on the strength of their defense than what Trubisky was doing. But I think they were 11-5 or 12-4 and won the division as well.
Yeah,
so
you mentioned the second.
that checks out.
You mentioned him turning the corner, which you'd expect, and there is a pattern for that. And thus far, man, it's looking like, Allen is not completing. Every week there are quarterbacks that complete 85% of their passes in the NFL.
Right.
Like Phillip Rivers goes out there and just completes every pass he throws. And if Allen settles into that quarterback tier where he completes 65-70% of his passes, and that's who he is that good enough?
That's great.
If Allen is the 16th best quarterback in the NFL, the Bills are in very good shape.
Oh yeah.
This year or for the next decade?
Both.
I mean, definitely for this year, because I think the defense is really good. Obviously, I'm not going to predict 10 years into the future what things are going to do.
Yeah,
but
you can't.
But you want him to be the guy for the next 15 years.
If he can be the type of it's not, it's hard because with the rushing ability, Cam Newton tends to be a common comparison. I don't really like the Cam one as much. One of the guys I'm thinking about, just in terms of like where mentally I think of him as a quarterback in the NFL in terms of against his peers. So not the game, but just where he ends up, is like a Matthew Stafford type, where if at his peak, maybe you're talking about a top 8 guy, like in his best year. Sometimes he's going to be down in the 20s if things aren't going well, or maybe, the scheme isn't necessarily playing up to his strengths, but somebody that's fairly reliable, that year after year you can rely on. He's going to stay healthy. He's going to get there. That's the type of career that if we can get that out of Josh Allen, I'd be pretty happy with. I don't know if we're there yet. We still have to see him play some of the the good teams. But getting to that, we were talking about this yesterday. Let's talk about the AFC a little bit, because some things got changed. As of recording, Ben Roethlisberger out for the rest of the season. Possibly could be the swan song. We don't know.
I mean, he says that he wants to come back, but it's not going to be an easy thing for a guy who's been around for so long, and is so beat up to recover from an injury of that significance.
And a team, one of the few teams that actually had the heir apparent in place with Mason Rudolph, someone that they took a 3rd-round pick on last season, didn't really play very much, but Roethlisberger, the elbow basically blown up. So we'll see what comes of that, but the Steelers are one of those teams that a lot of people like. Now they're 0-2. Tough games. New England and Seattle, don't get me wrong, tough games. But now with a backup quarterback, you look at this AFC, I still think New England can stay head and shoulders above everybody else. I now put Baltimore by themselves on that second tier. Now that, noted wide receiver Lamar Jackson has shown he can throw it here.
Yeah, he can throw a real nice downfield ball for a guy who never played quarterback in college.
He's looking really strong right now. The Ravens have added some real dynamicism on their offense. Hollywood Brown is a lot of fun. Mark Andrews is turning into one of the top 5 tight ends in football. Mark Ingram.
And they still got that Baltimore defense, too.
Bully. And, in Baltimore, while they got away from the defense for a few years, it's been back in spades now. And I kind of think of Baltimore as on the level 3 by themselves, or the second tier, but the 3rd best team in the AFC. I don't think they're as good as Kansas City, New England, but I wouldn't want to play them in the second round. That's not a team I'd like to see in the playoffs. After that, there's a whole jumble of teams now.
Chargers?
Right? Chargers, Texans,
so I would put the
Bills.
Chargers, the Texans, the Colts, the Bills. I'm going to still put the Browns in there. We're going to take I'd be willing to hear the Titans. I think we're taking the Steelers out of that. But there's 5 or 6 teams.
And then maybe the Raiders, depending on how you feel about the Raiders.
I'm not really a Raiders guy. And I've heard people say that maybe the Broncos too, but the Broncos just don't have the quarterbacking at this point. They have great defense.
Check down Joe Flacco.
Yeah. So you take away the Raiders, the Bengals, the Broncos. I don't think the Jaguars can do it this year. The Dolphins and the Jets.
Especially if Foles is out.
And he is.
There's only, there's a group of about 5 or 6 teams that I think the Bills can compare themselves to favorably and say, okay, I think we're on these teams' level, right? We thought it was the Jets too. Without Darnold in there, the Jets, as we are seeing tonight, 16-3 at the half for the Browns over the Jets. They're just not in that class.
And Mosley.
Yeah, and Mosley too. I mean, horrible luck, but if they're going to start 0-5, then you can't really consider much of a playoff threat. The Chargers yesterday, the Chargers are the Chargers, and they're dealing with injuries at all times. Very beat up. We know that Andrew Luck retires. Is Jacoby Brissett grid? Well, gutsy win on the road yesterday against a Tennessee team that beat Cleveland already.
The teams are beating up on each other, which is always nice to see.
So who did Indianapolis lose to? The Los Angeles Chargers, who then went on the road yesterday and lose to the Lions. So
Time is a flat circle.
you have all these teams at 1-1 in the Chargers, in the Colts, in the Titans. We're going to project the Browns to get to 1-1 after this game. This will finish after we're done recording, but 13-point halftime lead. I like Luke Falk. I don't think he's going to engineer this comeback.
The reemergence of Washington State football is something to behold.
You look at this schedule to start. Jets, Giants, Bengals. It feels like you should go 3-0 now, right? We already are 2-0, and I think it would be a real disappointment if they dropped one against the Bengals. Then you got the next two games after that, home against the Patriots, at the Titans. If this team at any combination is 4-1 after that, and you can get a win, and especially even if they lose to the Patriots, but they beat a peer, in my opinion, in the Titans on the road, I'm just saying there's some pretty good things, and then you get a game against Miami after that. There's reason to be
Miami, who by that point
cautiously
will have given up 300 points
and 300 players, as they've all requested to leave. They're just going to actually be playing the University of Miami. Congratulations!
I think I would rather play the Dolphins
on their promotion.
Bring up Tathan.
We're 2 games into the season so far, obviously. What's each of your guys' biggest surprise so far this season from the Bills?
Individually or as a team?
Either or. Biggest surprise.
Well, Josh Allen has taken a step that I didn't think he could.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's sustained or not, but so far Josh Allen he is throwing the ball better on the intermediate routes. He's being a little bit more patient, and the running is sustained, and I didn't think the running would be sustainable. He's got 2 more rushing touchdowns, 1 in each game. And they're doing it on designed runs, whereas last year it just felt like things were breaking down and he would scramble for 22 yards. They're now incorporating the run, which shows me that Dable is paying attention to the skill set. And even if he doesn't, the raw yardage isn't as much. I think it's more effective when you can put it into the team's minds that we're going to actually be running, which it didn't feel like they were able to do last year. So the whole Josh Allen package is the key to me. This is what I thought was going to be the key to their season. And so far he's exceeded expectations against admittedly below average opponents so far, but he's done, outside of the first half of the Jets game, he's done pretty well.
I have 2, both players, the biggest surprise. One, I'll just leave it. John Brown appears to be a number 1 wide receiver.
You took mine.
Sorry.
I say John Brown.
But 2, Dawson Knox, the rookie, not only making catches because he has had a few, that block on the Singletary run, he ate that dude up. He absolutely crushed him, just drove him back, and he just monster blocked him. But nobody was really sure if John Brown could be the number 1 guy, and it seems like he's doing a great job of it.
Well, that's going to be mine too, so I'm going to go real fast. Mine was John Brown, and I think what the season, the 2 games John Brown's had so far is more what I expected out of Cole Beasley. Just really getting open separation, and I think he's at like 6+ targets or receptions each game.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think he's going to easily have 1,000 yards this year.
He's on pace to match what Zay Jones did as the leading receiver for this team last year by week 8.
Yeah, my first thought when they picked him up was like, okay, we got a downfield guy. I didn't know he was going to do all, what he's doing now.
Yeah, I have 2. One that's already been touched on is Josh Allen, and the fact that he hasn't been turning the ball over. He's a lot more accurate passing. But the second one is the negative. One of the few negatives that I've seen this season is, and it's something we touched on earlier, is the offensive tackles are just not as good as at least I think they should be. I mean, you've got the internal 3 that are strong, but you've got your 2 tackles who are the weak spots on the line, and a good pass rushing team, a team with good defensive ends, will take advantage of that. I mean, whether it's New England or anybody else down the line, if you've got a good defensive end matched up on these tackles, you could have problems.
We'll see if Dawkins improves. He may be suffering from large intake of Kraft macaroni and cheese this past.
I do get a little bit sluggish.
He may have gotten a large shipment from Kraft after that comment, and I don't know.
Social media darlings, the Buffalo Bills. Who would have thought it?
I'm waiting for a box of Dawkins mac and cheese to go next to my TOs.
Oh, for sure, it's gonna happen.
I got 2 to close out here then. First for me is, and maybe not a surprise, but as much as something I've noticed, is how good the defensive line has been. Ed Oliver is just eating up double teams inside, throwing guys off literally with both hands, one with his left hand, one with his right hand. And then we talked about a healthy Trent Murphy, a hungry Shaq Lawson, plus great play again from Jerry Hughes. This feels like a great defensive line, and not just the 4 guys you put on the field first down. It's a great 6 or 7 guy rotation with Latulele and Phillips in the middle as well. Feels like a really, really good group.
There's no real drop off when those guys come
there
in
isn't,
either.
which allows you to keep everyone rested, and then you can keep that pass rush coming all game. And I think this might be a situation where in a key game down the road, you have a rested Jerry Hughes or a rested Trent Murphy on a third down play who's just going to blow by some poor tackle who's on his 70th snap of the game.
They're just going to pin their ears back, be able to pin their ears back and go.
Since we basically all had 2, I'll throw in a second. I might go with Brian Dable and his progression of his offense so far. I mean, the only real kind of 2 returning players he got in the offense are playing consistently is Josh Allen and Dan
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones are not really playing that much, you know. And it's like the way the offense has progressed and the creativity. Like I really like the motions they're doing on the runs, like pitching the ball to the guy in motion, you know, timing those snaps perfectly. That's fun to see, and like the design sweeps of Josh Allen and getting in the end zone. It's a perfectly run, by the way, too.
Since you skipped my second one to go right, you're right. It's
might be. I thought you were done.
No, am I ever truly ever done talking? Probably not. And I know we talked about it a little bit before. The other one for me is I am surprised by the speed and explosiveness of Devin Singletary. I did not think that he was as quick as he is, but there were some plays he made yesterday where he was cutting to the outside with great speed and making people miss. The touchdown run with that block from Knox were very nice. He had another great cut to the outside. He is exactly what you hoped he would be when he fell to the Bills in the 3rd round.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things, too, we should talk about with Singletary is he is a slight build, right? He's not someone that should he be getting more than 6 touches? Sure. Should he be getting more than 15? I don't know. That's up in the air. And I do think that he is always going to be the 1A type. His peak is a 1A, right? He is a 1A, 1B because I think you do have to limit his touches. I don't think he can sustain being a workhorse for 16 games. That just seems unrealistic. But if you use him in the right way and you get him a little bit more involved in the passing game, then I think you can do it. But then you need that bigger guy that's willing a little bit more to run between. It just makes more sense to run between the tackles like a Gore or Yeldon.
And that's an evolution of the NFL as a whole.
Right, yeah.
Like the Bills have always had, like except maybe when they had like Spiller and Jackson both, but like they've always had the bell cow, the guy that gets 35 touches a game because he's your guy.
Yep.
And the reality is you look at like Atlanta goes to the Super Bowl with Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman, and it's become a...
Very few teams can exist like that.
Yeah, you almost have to have... you could even argue that you need to have 3 running backs. Yeah. You need to have the guy between the tackles, the outside runner, and the guy that can catch and run.
The 3 best teams, if you look at the end of last season, were the Patriots, who have Brown, Michelle, and Burkhead. You had the Chiefs with Williams, and now Darwin Thompson, part of the last year, Kareem Hunt, Charkandrick West. They had a bunch of guys. The Rams had Gurley, but then they had C.J. Anderson, and now Brown's getting a bunch of touches. Mm-hmm. It is few and far between these teams that are just going to put the same guy back there. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, who was playing here tonight for New York, is one of the few guys in the NFL who is a quote-unquote every down back.
I mean, it's Bell, it's Zeke, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple. Yeah, Barkley, and there's a couple others. But, yeah, and like, it's hard where the workhorse running. And now look at what Dallas is doing in the passing game now. Now you got a full year of Amari Cooper, now that you're not playing 1995 style offense, and look at how good Dak Prescott's been.
Credit to the pride of Boise, Idaho, Kellen Moore.
When you're just running, a guy over and over and over, eventually the creativity, the Rams offense works because you can run Gurley, but then you can do the play action, and then you have 3 really talented receivers out there that can catch the ball in Woods and Lloyd and Cup. Cooks, Cup, and Woods. So yeah, I mean, everything has to complement each other, and if you're just wanting to rely on 1 or 2 players to just over and over do it, you can't do that. And that diversity that we've now seen on the Bills offense, where there are guys where you feel when they get the ball thrown to them or they're handed off that there is the potential to make a play. So that is totally different, and it feels foreign. It's been a while since the Bills have had multiple options on offense in both the passing and the running game, where you go, all right, we'll see what happens with it. And where when LaShawn McCoy went off the field in the past couple of years, you're like, well, I don't really know what we're going to get out of this. So there's a lot going on there, but it's been an exciting season so far. It's 2 games in, but I'm glad football is back, and I'm enjoying it, and so far so good if you're a Bills fan. Now let's talk about those Sabres lines.
It's been our most positive Bills conversation in years, I think.
That's because they haven't been good the entire time the shows exist.
I didn't say one bad thing about Josh Allen.
Their 2017, I felt like we had a couple of nice things to say, but it was in the cloud of that Taylor. The Taylor Peterson.
Yeah, I don't remember anything good we talked about because it was all just us yelling at each other about what we thought the Bills' quarterbacking situation should be.
I'm still curious to see what happens when they play a better team that's not the Jets or the Giants.
Right, and I don't necessarily think you're going to get with the Bengals. You know, they got later in the season. You play the Browns, you play the Titans.
You won't even be able to use the Pats as a barometer, though. You won't, because they're on such a higher level.
Next level. Yeah.
You play the Ravens, which should be interesting. And
That's a tough game now.
Yeah, I mean the schedule is favorable. The Cowboys on if the Bills are whatever, I don't know exactly. I guess they could be like 6-4. I think it's like
let's break
week 12 or whatever that they would play them.
Schedule down into little segments here. So you figure, do you think they will win either game against the Patriots, or do you hope that maybe they just go 4-2 in the division? Whether that means they sneak a late season game against the Patriots team that's 14-1, or they just sweep the Jets, and they should sweep the Dolphins, I would hope, at this point.
Yes, I don't think they get either game off the Patriots.
So given the year that Tom Brady had Randy Moss, this might be the most talent he's ever had on one offense, in my opinion.
It depends on whether or not Antonio Brown gets to play multiple games moving forward.
I'd be surprised if he's playing.
I was surprised he played on Sunday, so the jury's still out on that one.
If this Patriots team is at full bore, and you cannot trust Antonio Brown and you cannot trust Josh Gordon to do that, if by some miracle they can, then this is potentially better than the 2017 that changed the NFL forever. This is better than any offensive iteration of. I mean, they may be better than the Chiefs, and I know the Chiefs are great, but the Patriots can score with them, and I think they have a better defense.
They're a good defense, yeah.
So I think 4-2 in the division is the realistic target to say.
So then you look at playing the entirety of the AFC North, and the Bengals game being the first of those. You got a Steelers team without Big Ben, who knows what they're going to be. You've got a really good Ravens team and a Browns team that was predicted to be really good, but maybe the jury's out on them. Again, a situation like that, it's a 2-2 or a 3-1 feels pretty good, probably, because Baltimore is a tough team.
I think 2-2, because the road games being at Cleveland and Pittsburgh, I think they drop one of those, and I think they lose at home to the Ravens.
Then you got the entirety of the NFC East. You've already got one win. Then you play the Redskins, who don't look great. You've got the Eagles, who are great sometimes, and the Cowboys, who have looked very good. Again, that might be that's in that 2-2, 3-1 range, with at least 2 of those being home games.
I think I lean 2-2 again. You have Washington and Philadelphia home, Dallas, and as you said, you already got one road victory, which is any road victory that you can get in the NFC is like, it's just a bonus.
Is that Cowboys game Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that's the Thanksgiving game.
That team's going to be amped up to play Thanksgiving. Dude, you said the Ravens game's a tough one now. It is a tough one, but I think that defense, that front seven, has about 4 guys that can effectively shadow Lamar Jackson. And if they're not shadowing him, they have the right team philosophy and the right defensive ends to properly contain him.
I don't think it's an unwinnable game, but I also think that you can't plan for the Lamar Jackson that went onto the field last year. He has proven that he is a significantly improved outfield passer. It's a different ballgame.
And like we were talking about Brown and Andrews and Ingram, they are totally different. They're not running it 70% of the time like they were towards the end of last season. And then the 2 crossover games that we didn't mention, Tennessee out of the South and Denver out of the West.
I feel really good about the Denver game because I don't think that the Denver offense that has proven it can't throw the ball more than 10 yards downfield can do anything against the Bills.
Nope.
Tennessee is one of those teams that it's a measuring stick game. Those are 2 teams that project to finish very similarly in the standings.
I mean, that could...
Mariota had 140 yards yesterday or something.
So?
Yeah, but they scored 41 on the Browns the week before that. Yeah. I mean, I'm just point to whatever you want.
Fear it.
No, I don't necessarily fear it, but they seem like they always play Tennessee tight. Didn't they do it, last year? They win that game, but did they deserve to win that game? I don't know. They just kind of pulled it out in the end. There have been multiple Tennessee games where it comes down to a drive or 2. They seem to have the same mentality most years, and it's a road game. It's one where I can't take advantage. I'm never going to fear Marcus Mariota, but I'm also never going to assume anything other than a 1-possession game against the Titans that can go in either way.
It's just there too.
I don't know.
So let's call that 1-1.
9-7.
That's 9-7, and that's if you. And I think that was pretty reasonable and conservative of us to not give them any extra games that were kind of coin flips.
Right. I think
So
you could
that's-
say they
this
can
could be
go
9, it could be 10, it could be 8, but it feels like they're
Right.
right there.
I think you can certainly make the case that they could go 2-0 against Denver and Tennessee, or they can go 3-1 against the AFC North. I think it's hard for me to get them wins against Philadelphia and Dallas, but I'm
or
not
they
saying it's
could-
impossible.
Or they can beat Minnesota and Atlanta on the road.
Right, exactly. Right, yeah. So
It's there's
I mean,
precedent,
and
yeah.
if Carson Wentz is going to play that way, or if he's hurt and the Eagles
Eagles were
all
down
of
to
their
2
depth
receivers
was tested
yesterday.
last night. Right. Well, Jackson was out, or they were
Jackson, Jeffrey, and Aguilar were all out at the
We're
same
all
time.
out at various points. Yeah, I mean that's
Big game by Matt
crazy.
Collins, noted football player.
And the Arcega Whiteside was the only other guy left. So yeah, there is room to say right now it seems very realistic that this team finishes between 7-9, 9-7. But if they can pop a couple of these, coin flip / their 40-60 the wrong way type games, yeah, there is the potential. So
Will the Bills ever not be 7-9 or 9-7?
well.
Hopefully someday, but hopefully in the positive direction.
And as much
They've-
as-
every time they've broken out of that, they've gone down.
And
so.
if you want to give credit to and then you're not wrong, Bill. The road games are always going to be tougher. We mentioned it earlier. They have 8 games at home still. If they win 6
Right.
of those, and win none of their other games, they're 8-8.
Right. So you got the 3 division games. You got Cincinnati, Baltimore, Denver, Washington, and Philadelphia. So none of those are, I do think Philadelphia and New England are better than them. I would probably predict New England, Philadelphia in the Super Bowl still at this point. If I
think
gun
Wentz.
my head,
I think Wentz runs for his life though. And Peters went down last night.
well, and Peters goes down every year.
He does, but-
it is interesting. I think the depth is what separates Philadelphia because their depth doesn't fall off like other teams does. But it is being tested right now, so we'll see.
Jason Peters is still playing the NFL, and we're sitting here talking about Dean Dawkins struggling. I think it's hilarious.
If only he wanted to
Don't
play
pay
here.
your good players.
No, just get him out of here. Didn't
Hall
they pick
of
up some
Famer.
great guards though after that? Or no, that was before that. But yeah, it's you have to recognize when you have a Hall of Fame tackle. Try to hang on to those guys. They're somewhat valuable.
Excuse yourself. Hall of Fame tight end.
It's a Hall of Fame tight end converted to tackle.
I don't think we've talked about as many
Ooh,
pro
big
athletes that are my age as we have today.
That's Adam,
Roethlisberger was born 30 days after me, and Peters was born 8 days before me.
and then of course Adam Vinatieri is still around, old enough to be your older brother.
He really tried to retire today. I'm curious what Chris Ballard and the team over in Indy said to him. He's like,
They're like, nope,
listen,
sorry,
Jim Irsay-
one retirement a
retirement
year.
per
I know you
season.
cost us the game and everything, but please don't leave.
Jim Irsay is like, you like Coke? I know, I am the guy.
I am the guy.
Just going full Scarface. Oh, good stuff.
We do have actual hockey news for the first time in a long time because the preseason kicked off today, and man, the Sabres really, really tried to lose that game in the third period.
They were just simply testing their durability.
But they did manage to win their first preseason game in overtime and a goal by Jack Eichel.
Who?
Jack Eichel.
The captain.
Never heard of him.
And now that the game's over, you take Jack Eichel, you take Jeff Skinner, you take Rasputin, and you put them back in the box and back on the shelf. where
See you in
got 'em from.
October.
Tape it shut,
Let
leave
Darlene
him.
play another game because he was a little questionable.
That's just for those huge loyal fans of Sabres and
Did you
State
watch the
College,
game, or did you
Pennsylvania.
just
That
see
we got
tweets on Twitter?
I was literally sitting in this exact spot in your room. I didn't watch a single thing.
I thought he played great. I mean, I had to watch the third period, but I'm not going to trust Lance Laskowski's take. I don't like that guy much.
Wow.
Man, I hope he doesn't
Shots
listen now.
fired.
Hope he doesn't listen.
Let's start a newspaper.
Oh, well.
But encouraging to see Yoki Haru score.
Yeah.
Yogi Hara looked really good.
That's encouraging.
I saw Nylander score today too.
Tage
Both
Thompson.
teams won the trade.
Yeah.
Yogi Haru and Darlene played at the same pairing, and if Yogi Haru is the player they say he can be, that's going to be scary in a few years to come because you can tell he's very confident the puck on the stick, and you can see his eyes up looking for the pass before the puck gets to him, and he's crisp with the puck. He's going to be that could be a deadly pairing moving forward for the Sabres. And 2 power play quarterbacks. I think be a different units too. Sorry,
Yeah, but where's Ristolainen playing on the power play?
he's probably somewhere like.
No,
on
kidding.
the
That was
bench.
the tongue in cheek, Justin. That was tongue in cheek.
He's playing the bench.
We have breaking news in football, but let's finish up the hockey toss here. real quick.
Brock Besser signs 3 years,
He
average
does
annual
sign
value of 5.8.
another RFA down. I
Bridge
believe the
deal.
Marner signing happened since the last time we were here as well.
Yeah, the logjam feels like it's letting go a little bit. You had Rowensky sign
Poser.
for way less than he's worth.
Marner was a domino, right? Like
He
everyone's
had to
waiting-
be. Yeah.
Set the market.
Yeah, no one set the market. And hopefully, for my fantasy team's sake, Mikko Rantanen signs here soon. Because
Rantanen and Line are the next big domino.
Colorado's got
So
money, though.
So who won the Marner deal?
Marner.
People who
10.8 a year,
are
Mitch Marner.
looking to get out of Montreal.
I don't think Marner's that great. I mean, he's good hockey. He's a great hockey player, but I think you put him on another team to be the guy. He's not Mitch Marner you have in Toronto.
Can we talk about how trash it is that Toronto is about to put $30 million on long-term IR?
Hey,
That is usurping the system if you've ever seen it. It's garbage. Like,
Cutting edge Kyle Dubas.
we're gonna have it for another 3 or 4 seasons, right? Everybody's good.
2022 now.
Everybody's good with the agreement.
yeah,
so
but it's just,
We can like it or not like it, but it's the system he's
It's
allowed to
within the
play.
rules. I don't like
And
it
if I
either.
was Kyle Dubas, and I don't want Toronto to succeed, but if I was Kyle Dubas, I would do the same thing.
trash.
it's pretty smart.
Trash.
It's been trash since Chris Pronger went on.
But I still think they're. I still think they're.
I don't think Chris
I still think
Pronger's
they're in trouble
retired yet.
though.
Well, I mean,
If
don't know
they
if it's being
lose
right.
to the Bruins again in the first round,
How
it
are the
doesn't
Leafs?
feel like Babcock can stay anymore.
How are the Leafs better than last year?
they're not.
They're
How
not.
do they?
They're the
How do
same
they
thing.
get better?
How
They don't.
Well, but how were the Capitals better than what they did, and then all of a sudden they finally got the breaks? I mean, hockey in the
Sure,
in the
I
playoffs
get
is a
that.
weird thing, and they've gone to Game 7s and just they haven't won them. If they can get one on home ice at one of these years, then maybe they can actually pull it off. We know it's going to be Tampa, Boston, and Toronto in some order in the Atlantic, as it has been since the beginning of the Atlantic, seemingly, and how it will ever be. It's very difficult for me to imagine any of the other teams breaking through. I obviously want one or two of them to. Preferably one of them specifically, but it just from a realistic standpoint, they seem to be pretty even with Boston. They seem to be a tick below Tampa. If they can just get a little bit lucky and win 1-6, or pull out 1-7, then the sky's the limit. And I do think right now Boston has become to Toronto what the Pittsburgh Penguins were to the Capitals for all those years. I know it's a shorter term, but they just need to get the one, and then they could ride it all the way.
I just think Toronto's defense is abysmal. I
Well,
think
it's-
Gardner was good, and he's gone now. And
Gardner was the victim. Gardner's the victim of everybody else having to get paid,
Yeah.
and you're going to pay Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews.
They lost Morgan Riley.
Right.
They lost Jake Gardner. So
Yeah, I
now it's
forgot
Ron
about Riley,
Hainsey.
too.
Now it's
Yeah.
now it's
Ron
Ron
Hainsey and Tyson
Hainsey
Barrie.
and Tyson Barrie, which is a good
Who
player.
wants to get paid?
Nikita Zaitsev. Like their defense is just not good.
Barry's got to
I
get
almost
paid.
think I'd rather pay 2 solid defenders than
Then 4 forwards that
sign
are
Mitch Marner to that deal.
sure.
Yeah.
Trade Mitch Marner for some nice pieces, maybe 2 solid defensemen, and
Well, the bad news is that now no one could afford to trade for Mitch Marner because that contract is so big that no one could take him.
It's 11 a year.
It's
10.8.
close
so
to
what they have
yeah.
about
10.8.
30 plus million in Tavares, Marner, and Matthews.
Their top 4 makes up more than half of their salary cap.
Ouch.
Because Tavares is what 13.
How far are the
And then-
Sabres from that? Sorry,
What's that?
how far are the Sabres from that?
From what?
How far are the Sabres from that? Because Michael's getting 10, Skinner's getting 8.
Not even close.
Gallagher's gonna get paid.
You take the top 2
Matt
players.
Molson.
You take the Sabres have the Sabres top 3 players probably
Kyle
are the equivalent of
Oposo.
2 players for Toronto.
Yeah, it's not quite there. And look,
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying
no, but you got to go.
If Reinhardt hit a big deal,
Yeah, and
Could happen.
He would be the one. It looks like they're trying to do what the Blackhawks tried to do and avoid for all those years where, like when Vancouver had to sign the Sedins, they got a couple good years out. You got to get it early because as these guys get a little bit older and then all the other complementary pieces get better and they want their deals and they get out, things can go, look at where Chicago and Vancouver are now or have been.
The difference to me with Chicago is they had Duncan Keith, Nicholas Chalmerson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they had better film. But remember, when
Better
they won in
defenders.
2010 and then half the team was traded to the Thrashers, or went to the Thrashers, Lay Thrash, R.I.P. Yeah, I mean, we will see. I'm intrigued by it. I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact. I think the Leafs could be, maybe 4 or 5 points better. Maybe that gives them a home game in Game 7. I just think they have to finish and they have to get a victory in that first round, or else I do think Mike Babcock could be in trouble.
not you, Mike, the other one.
Oh, whew. was getting worried there.
Yeah. If the Leafs lose, you die. It's like
It's a really bad version of speed.
Yeah,
it's a really shitty version of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
You have Austin Matthews at 11.5. You have Tavares at 11. You have Marner at 11, and then you have Nylander at 7. So 22.5, 33.5, and 7, $40.5 million
Nylander's going to look up from his prosciutto in his corner and be like, wait, they're all making how much more than me?
out of 80.
I want more.
Big season last year,
$81.5 million salary cap, and you have. And I'm not saying they're wrong for having 4 big contracts. I just think they're in trouble because their defense.
Yeah, the difference is that Chicago team you referenced, it was Taves, Kane, and then Seabrook and Keith.
Keith, correct.
They built themselves a solid 4 guys who were all
good
all
Brent
over the
Seabrook,
ice.
not worst
Yeah, like
contract in the league.
top
Brent
5
Seabrook that we
defenseman
currently
Brent
have.
Seabrook,
Yes.
The Leafs are going to have to win game 6 to 7-6 this year. 7-6 every game.
That's what they had to do.
That's what they're doing last year.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is that they don't have the goaltending or the blue line.
Right.
They
Is
they
Freddie
lack-
Anderson really that good? I don't know.
No.
I don't think so either.
Spoiler alert, he's not. He maybe is the 20th best goalie.
Well,
But
that's our Leafs talk for the Sabres podcast.
yeah, sorry.
That's a division.
Look, the
No,
Leafs
that's
are
fun.
fascinating.
It's fun
I
to talk
think
about, yeah.
the Leafs, for years and years and years, the Toronto media, when they were the most drab team every single season, and we would still have to hear about them because they were Toronto, and they wouldn't even be able to make the playoffs. And now we see them finally doing something. They're interesting.
It's flashy.
Sorry, Toronto is the most interesting team in the league, and I don't think it's particularly close this year.
It's flashy. The domino that fell for me was obviously Tavares. That's so obvious, but like we talked about, he took.
Well, are they in a
took
better position
$2 million less a year than what San Jose offered him?
if John Tavares is in San Jose or is still a New York Islander? Are the Maple Leafs in a better position? There is a strong case to say yes, they are.
Depends on what they go out and do
If
with
they
that
sign a
money, then.
defenseman or something, yeah.
But I feel like they would. Don't you think that Riley and or Gardner are still on the team, and then you have
Riley
room
is
for
on
another
the team.
guy?
I was
both
wrong.
still on the team.
Morgan Riley is on the team. That
Right,
was my
and then
fault.
you have Mort. So that's what I'm saying. He is still on the team.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I
my
didn't. All right, I
Yeah,
wasn't.
Gardner's
But whatever.
the one who's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, like I think they're a better team, and I think they can win. They're still capable of winning games in like going 5-4 against teams. Then I think they can occasionally win a game 3-1 too. We'll see.
Who knows? It'll be fun.
I'm getting excited about the Sabres season now. I was kind of frustrated all offseason,
Were you?
but I'm
Didn't
still
know. Did you guys know I play daily fantasy?
Yeah.
Do you? What is that?
$25
You
this
mean
week.
you were a little bit worried about the Sabres this offseason?
Yeah.
Can you explain how that works?
I just think so much of this season, because with their lack of moves, to bring another top 6 talent, which the team needs, so much of the season now depends on the progression of Casey Middlestat and Rasmus Dahlin. But if those two, if Middlestat progresses even a little bit, this team is so much better off than they were last year.
Trade news, sorry. Minka Fitzpatrick to the Steelers for a first-round pick. Sorry. Not trying
That's
to pull
an
us away from
interesting
hockey.
move by
but
Pittsburgh. Is that the news that you were referencing?
That
there,
was
Bill?
yeah.
Sorry.
It
That
was
is a,
wow.
Sorry,
They
Justin.
should have got a quarterback, not a cornerback. I'd be in there trading for Josh
Son of
Rosen.
a bee.
I mean, Fitzpatrick has played safety and
Flores
corner.
calls the Steelers. I got a quarterback for you.
Is there's a possibility that the Dolphins just picked up a top 15 pick, right?
Yeah, probably.
Pretty good
The
because
Dolphins might stink this year and be pretty good next year.
The Steelers are 0-2, about to play a 2-0
Historically-
Niners team that looked really good.
I mean the draft capital they're earning, they're the Browns on steroids right now. It's incredible.
Minka Fitzpatrick may have gone from a historically bad team to a worse team in the future.
was going for a team at the bottom to a team on its way there.
Well, it was
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Yeah,
we were just talking a couple weeks ago about the Titans. How I said, or the Texans. How I said they got better this season, and I feel like their Super Bowl odds got much worse. It's the same thing now. I mean, what the Dolphins are doing, like them or not, holy shit, man! The Dolphins
If
got
the
a lot of
Texans
stuff going on.
don't
now.
have a good year, let's say the Texans finish 7-9. I don't think it's unreasonable that Pittsburgh goes literally 4-12. The
Dolphins
Dolphins
now
can have 3 top 10 picks or 3 top 15 picks, depending on how good you think Houston is.
I mean, I think Houston's pretty good, but if Deshaun Watson gets hurt,
and they
then
were almost
everything
0-2.
crumbles.
So they're not exactly world beaters.
I don't picture Bill O'Brien ever hoisting the Vince Lombardi Trophy triumphantly. Sorry,
As a coach or a GM.
or just as an entity. Maybe we can, after he dies, we can name it after him because he dies in a tragic.
Well,
fashion or
you have to name
something.
the basketball trophy after him. It's the Bill Larry O'Brien trophy.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins obviously really want Kyler Murray. And then next pick's probably a left tackle. And then they've
you mean
Tua Tagovailoa?
Yeah, because the Cardinals got Kyler Murray. But
not Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tagovailoa.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Trash or Tua.
I mean, at this rate, they're going to draft Tua and Jerry Jeudy in the top 5.
Boy, just bring it home. Bring it down to South Florida.
Then maybe they can try to convince Saban to coach there.
That could be that. That must but they got rid of Minka Fitzpatrick.
Bring Fitzpatrick back.
Bring him back in. It was set. He was a ploy all along. It was the Molson Trop deal all over again.
Brian Flores playing 5D Chinese checkers while the rest of us are over here playing chess.
I don't even understand the game.
I don't understand it in 1D.
Brian Flores is taking the checkerboard, throwing it out the window, urinating on it, lighting it on fire somehow because his urine is flammable. Don't ask.
On his way to 0-16 and the worst team ever constructed in the modern
And Bill
NFL.
Belichick's just like, all right, whatever, checkmate. It's pretty incredible. Does that just about do it? Any other Sabres conversation? Go ahead.
It's worth mentioning that the group that played tonight at College Station was the group that Risto had been with all training camp, and they were all there today, except for him.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm still in the camp that I don't think they're going to trade him. Yeah. But if you were, let's say, disagreeing with me, this would be where you would begin to look in my direction and be like, you're wrong, because I might be.
He might be in a conversation with the team, and they might be holding him out just as precaution in case they are trying to,
I would think it's safe to say they're at least trying to right now.
Yeah.
Whether or not they can, or whether or not they'll get what they want for him, different discussions. But I think it's safe to say they are at least exploring the option. Because why else would you not play him here tonight? Everyone else played. Players who you certainly have much more hope for the future of than Risto at this point. Darlene, Michael, Skinner, etc. Mm-hmm. So
they were fun to watch tonight, but they were playing mostly AHL players.
And they still almost lost that game, Classic Sabres.
The goalies didn't play good. I think they had a lot of one shots the whole first period, and there's one goal. They had one goal in that one shot.
Wow.
And it was a defensive breakdown right in front of the net. In Carter Hutton's defense, right? It was a wide open one-timer.
Defensive structure.
Sabres letting someone be free on defense. Never seen it. Can't believe it.
They gave him a second shot in the very last minute, but it literally just trickled down Hutton from the blue line. It was like outside the zone. Just trickled down.
Who played the rest of the game? Because
Johansson.
Johansson, yeah.
Johansson. Yeah, that's that. Sabres play again shortly against Toronto. I think tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, they got six games this year. Seven, 7, whatever it is.
Before we wrap, can we get some score predictions for the Bills game on Sunday?
Yeah,
start with Bill.
I'll go 31-20. Sounds about right. So 31-20 Bills.
Steve.
I like the Bills' defense to do maybe one of their best jobs yet. Give me 27-10 Buffalo.
Mike.
I'm going to say 28-17 Buffalo.
I think this one plays out a little bit closer than maybe we hope. I'm going to go Buffalo 20-10. I think maybe the offense struggles a little bit because they played so well last week, but I do think the defense keeps Cincinnati very well in check. It's going to be like it was on Sunday. 28-14 isn't convincing, but I think it's going to play out to be pretty convincing. The game's not going to be in question.
I don't think the offense is 30 points good yet. But I think it's going to be much closer. I think this is going to be the best offense they faced so far. I think it's going to be like 24-23 Bills.
Oof.
I think it's going to be a close one.
I mean, this is a Bengals team that played Seattle on the road to within a point. It's not unreasonable to think they'll do the same to Buffalo. I do think the Bills' defense is better than Seattle, but I also think Seattle's offense is better than Buffalo's, so we'll see. But we're all too optimistic. This feels weird. The Bills are 2-0. We talked very positively. We all think the Bills are going to go to 3-0. So weird times on the 716.
I think the stadium literally wills the Bills to a victory this week. It's going to be crazy.
I think they're going to be hyped for the home game.
I wonder what tickets are going to cost this week in the aftermarket, secondary market.
Let's check right now.
Take a look.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going StubHub.
I'm going to guess 180.
To sit where?
Upper deck.
Really?
Over under on 15.5. How many people you follow on Twitter that are going to complain about the new parking lot rules?
Oh, yeah.
The cheapest seats you can buy are how much?
65.
Higher.
90.
Higher.
Really?
Wow. 120.
Cheapest tickets are $118.
Wow. Everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Buffalo Bills, ladies and gentlemen.
Build that
Nobody
new
circles
stadium.
The wagons.
Yeah.
We're ready for the PS.
Row 34 of Section 315, a low $118.
Wow.
Where are they? Sorry.
Row 34 of Section 315.
Yeah, bring your binoculars.
Just sit in the parking lot.
Oh,
You'll just be closer.
Just listen to the game on the
Just
radio. you're better
tailgate in the
off.
parking lot.
Close your eyes and picture it in your mind.
There are lovely sight lines there. What are you talking about? There's giant clocks. There's
It's train horns.
Are all the flights correct now?
Hopefully, we'll have to see. It's a beautiful facility. It feels like home.
You're literally a mile away from the stadium. Is that a corner, or is that like
It's like a 5-yard line kind of deal.
Ugh.
Yeah, end zone /5. I saw the little view in the corner. It's essentially an end zone, not the end of the stadium because there is no 300 level.
I think I've
end.
only sat in the 100s twice ever for a game. I enjoy I don't know. I enjoy the 300s.
To an extent, but if you're in the last row, that's the last row. You're in the last row of 3, you are so far
Yeah, I
back.
think my buddy has season like row. I think it's row 26 or something.
Do you
like that,
remember
so.
the TO's last game as a Bill against the Colts when
Yeah,
they didn't need it?
we went for a half, and
So Time Warner gave away free tickets because they weren't selling them out. So my father-in-law responded to the email and got 4 free tickets. So my buddies Alex and Scott and I went, and Scott had a truck because it was snowing like a bitch out.
No, I remember.
And we got out, and we had our hand warmers, and my buddy Scott and I had Carhartts on. My buddy Alex wore a wool coat and jeans and thought he was going to be good. So sorry for this trip down memory lane. We open up the tailgate of his truck, and we crack open our beers, and we are sitting on the tailgate for about 8 seconds, and my buddy Scott goes, "This is stupid." And we get back in the truck because we realize as well as we may be dressed, we are going to have to stand outside in this weather for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Let's not start doing that at 9 a.m.
I remember the iceberg lettuce on our sub tray actually froze.
Froze? I believe.
So it was like ice.
It was like the third coldest
And
game in
turkey.
Bill's history.
Yeah,
it was freezing.
Yeah.
And I remember the snow coming down so hard that we couldn't see the field at times, and
Yep.
they would shovel the sidelines,
Yeah.
every 10-yard
Yeah.
lines, and by the time they got to the other side, they were covered
It was
again.
already covered,
It was
yeah.
bananas, but it was a great game. It was fun. Fred Jackson ran for like 300 yards. It was a blast.
Blizzard games with the Colts. Fun times. Peyton showed up for one drive.
One
said,
drive, and then was like, "I'll be in the hot tub."
Deuces.
Curtis Painter. What was his first name?
Curtis.
Curtis Painter.
Yep.
Yeah, is that right?
And
So,
a
yeah.
great line of Colts backup quarterbacks with Jim Sorgi, now Jacoby Brissett, Chad Kelly.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Jacoby
All
Brissett
the
is not a
greats.
backup anymore.
He was.
You love Chad Kelly.
This
He's
is General
just
Brissett, too.
Chad Kelly's the third quarterback. They traded for what's his name? They brought in.
Brian Hoyer. I
yeah,
forgot
they
about
brought in
Brian
Hoyer. Yeah, yeah. They didn't even let Chad Kelly be the backup.
Well, he's still suspended for another couple of games for whatever happened with him in that vacuum, so he's still got to make some around here. Yeah. Bill's Seat Talk. Shout out to my friend and podcast meme source, Andy Biter, who has never been in this room on the show, but has contributed digitally, and he got engaged over the weekend, so I know he's listening.
hey,
So
nice.
congrats, bud.
Please tell me that he made a meme for it.
He hasn't yet, but you never.
Yeah.
He usually listens to the
Coming
show on like
soon.
Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
Come on,
and
Andy.
Fire something over later on in the week. So
People love memes.
shout out to we have a great behind the scenes crew full of many individuals who work very many
Yeah,
roles.
thanks to all the engineers, the producers, the co-producers, the PAs, the grips, the best boys. We appreciate all of you.
Shout out to the green screen guy who brought a green screen.
Yeah.
The call
Special
screener.
effects team working full bore. Your dad was very worried about you curtaining over the
Green screen into your
green
ceiling
screen into the fan.
Well, it works out pretty good.
And imagine if that was in your garage, that goddamn wiring in that thing.
fan. It was set on fire.
I noticed you didn't put our Wiring Today podcast, Garage Wiring Today podcast in the feed last week. That must have gotten lost. We left it on the desktop. If you could just make sure you can put that in for us for next time, as Jeff and I wax poetically for 46 minutes on
What'd you do?
Garage Wiring. Next time.
We learned a lot about your garage, man. All about it.
A lot of thoughts.
A lot of thoughts.
Want to go see it?
Nah,
Nope.
maybe. You can listen to this fine podcast and many others like it. We are found on Facebook at 716 Sport Podcast, on Twitter at 716 Sport Podcast. We are on Instagram, I believe 716 Sports Podcast on there as well. You can find this show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play, wherever it is that your favorite podcasts are located. The Jets are really bad. The Dolphins just trying to make a Fitzpatrick. The Bills are going to go to the playoffs. Good night.
And why are you trying to